I'm going to caveat today by saying I am not a psychologist. I'm not even close. But after 25 years of working with organisations going through change, I've seen firsthand how it affects people at a fundamental level. Change fatigue isn't just some corporate buzzword, it's deeply psychological and very, very real. When we experience multiple changes in quick succession, our brains are constantly toggling between letting go of what's familiar and trying to adapt to new realities. This creates what experts call cognitive load. It's the mental energy spent processing and adapting rather than actually performing. I think what happens is our natural resistance to uncertainty triggers stress responses. And when these pile up without any real time to recover, mental and emotional exhaustion inevitably follows. I've watched how prolonged periods of change without adequate recovery time can lead to all sorts of issues, decreased decision-making ability, reduced creativity, and sometimes complete emotional withdrawal. The thing is, people aren't being difficult when they resist another change. They're simply conserving their already depleted mental resources. So, understanding these psychological dimensions has completely changed how I approach communication during times of intense change. How can you spot change fatigue in your teams? Well, change fatigue shows up in both behavioural and in psychological responses. You might notice meetings becoming unusually quiet, or engagement metrics suddenly take a nosedive, or comments turn increasingly cynical. On a deeper level, people start exhibiting what psychologists call learned helplessness. This is a belief that no matter what they do, it won't make a blind bit of difference. Decision paralysis sets in as mental reserves get depleted, and emotional reactions tend to increase while attention spans decrease. But for me, the most telling indicator is the emotional detachment. When your once passionate advocates become visibly indifferent, that's when you know change fatigue has truly taken hold. They're still doing their jobs, but that extra discretionary effort, the part that actually drives transformation, vanishes. A few years back, I was working with a US tech company and saw perhaps the best example of creating intentional pauses. Their sales team operated on a very tight quarterly cycle with multiple change initiatives also running alongside normal selling activities, which would be a perfect recipe for burnout. Their solution was to implement something called Shield the Field, a 2-week period at the end of each quarter where all non-essential communications simply stopped. During those final couple of weeks of the quarter, only messages that directly supported sales closures were permitted. Anything else had to wait. The results were kind of amazing. So, without the constant barrage of updates and changes, the sales team could actually focus entirely on closing the deals. This simple calendar adjustment not only reduced fatigue, but actually improved quarterly sales performance. This concept of intentional communication pauses works well beyond just the sales team. Since then, I've used variations across different organizations, creating change-free weeks between major initiatives and developing essential message-only periods during critical business cycles. The key I found is recognizing when your teams need space just to breathe and process. Our instinct as communicators is often to fill every silence with more information, but sometimes the most effective communication strategy is knowing when to pause.